I quit. Yes, that's what I said about 4 years ago. I said goodbye to a 25-year teaching career because I just couldn't take it anymore. Hi, folks, and welcome back to Hey Dad. Today, I want to share a bit about my professional journey, especially the end of one career and the beginning of another. I do this because it's part of the path that I've walked over the years, and quitting as a teacher has put me where I am today. I don't think I had a choice. Back at the end of 2021, I had to quit for the sake of my mental, physical, and emotional well-being. Here's my story. I had wanted to be a teacher since high school. After graduating at age 18, I set out on my own. I got a full-time job and I moved into my own apartment. I really couldn't go straight to university because being a gay teenager growing up under the watchful eyes of conservative and religious parents, I had to push off my college education to a later date. And so I worked 40 hours a week so I could be fully independent. I always planned to, at some point, go back and get my bachelor's degree. And indeed, I ultimately did. At 30, I went back to university, I got my degree, and then I got my master's degree as well, and a teaching certificate. Teaching was always hard, but I loved it. I quickly grew my skills and developed into a well-respected teacher. Parents wanted their kids in my class, and my students were always gaining more ground than expected from 1 year under my instruction. My teaching, it was creative and rigorous, and my skills were consistently ranked by my principals from good to superior. That lasted about 15 to 18 years. And then the district and school administration started to change. All teachers faced a lot more restrictions. We even got to the point that certain lessons had to be taught at certain times on certain days, and creativity, adaptation, supplementation, it was all discouraged. Things like field trips and class plays were strongly discouraged and regulated so strictly that we just all stopped doing them. As the profession became more restricted, the negative behaviors of the students escalated. Where I had never faced violence in my classroom before, all of us started to experience it with greater frequency. Throwing things, students screaming, running away, they all became a regular part of classroom life, and the administration did almost nothing about it. So it was on one such day, a Friday in November of 2021, after we were back in school from COVID restrictions, when a student at the end of the day was attacked in my classroom by another student. And when I reported it, the parent accused me of lying. And the principal just shrugged his shoulders and said, "I don't know what to say." Of course, nothing was done. No disciplinary action taken against the student, who had repeatedly acted out in this way for a few years. And no one was willing to discipline him anymore because the parents would just always threaten to sue and accuse everyone of racism. That incident was the straw that broke this particular camel's back. Over the preceding 5 years or so, the increasingly common lack of civility among the adults was also spreading among the children, and it made my professional life hell. Sunday nights were the worst. I would start feeling sick to my stomach at like 2 in the afternoon, just at the mere anticipation of returning to work on Monday morning. My sleep was disrupted, and my joy in teaching was gone. I was no longer a good and happy teacher. I was just getting by day. And the school was shrinking because good families and students were leaving. Our once stellar reputation was in the toilet. Many staff members had left, but I hung on, and that was my mistake. It got to the point where I was in a constant state of depression and anxiety. I had been told by so many parents over the years that I was born to be a teacher, that teaching was my gift, But then by the time 2021 rolled around, I was no longer happy and effective. So I turned in my 4 weeks notice. I would quit at the end of December, and the district would have a month to hire a replacement, which they did. I just couldn't take it anymore. Looking back, I should have moved to a different position in a different district, probably 4 or 5 years earlier, but I didn't. I was afraid. I thought the devil I knew was better than the devil I didn't. To this day, I sometimes look back at quitting and think of it as a mistake. But I don't know what else I could have done. That school, that district had become toxic, all in the name of continual improvement and higher test scores. Prior to my quitting, 2 principals had been fired during that 5-year decline. And the person who was principal when I quit, fired soon after I left. 3 principals in a row fired. You see, the decline at my school wasn't because of the principals. They were good people. It was because of the district's mismanagement. They made the job of school leadership nearly impossible. It was because of our litigious society and cruel parents and rapidly spreading lack of civility. It became the norm. So after quitting, I took a few months off and I just lived off my savings. And then when I started working again as a substitute in a new district, I tried to build relationships in new schools. And I did that with some success. I developed a reputation within a few months that I was a reliable substitute, and schools started requesting me specifically to come teach 2-3 times a week in their buildings. And toward the end of the school year, I started applying for positions that were opening up in those very same buildings. Unfortunately, I learned there is one thing principals don't want, and that's an old, experienced teacher. We are simply too much trouble. We may be skilled, we may be adaptable, but we aren't pliant. And where I taught, I would have been brought in at the top of the pay scale. Older teachers are expensive. So, after a few dozen applications and never getting an interview, when the new school year started and I had no new position, I gave up. And I started looking into higher education. A few applications there got me a few interviews and ultimately a position in administration at a state university where my experience and dedication were welcomed. So now I work with graduate students and the stress level is so much lower. I am not terrified on Sunday afternoons. I sleep better. I wake refreshed on most days. And though I don't have summers off, I do get more vacation time than in most corporate world positions. My new position also enabled me to continue building my state pension, which I started way back in the early 2000s. I think the lesson here is, don't hold back from making a change when you are unhappy at work. Take steps to change. Take a risk. And it's okay to give up and move on. Change is difficult, but it can also lead to something better and more personal fulfillment. Today, I'm planning for a couple other changes a few years down the road. My daughter will graduate from high school. In a few years, I will retire. All this good work that I've done, all the good choices I've made, as well as the mistakes, have prepared me to retire and to release my daughter into adulthood. I really don't regret quitting teaching 4 years ago. I had to do it. It was the right choice, and the transition was difficult. But I had faith that it would turn out okay, and it has. I'm much happier and more productive and secure moving forward. Change may be difficult, but change is also good. Be safe, be well, and thanks for listening.